huh?
Okay, looks like the gang's all here. Let's have a meeting of the Baldwin Planning Board, Thursday, November 8th, 2018. Meeting will be in order. We have 5 members in attendance, more than a quorum. All 5 of the members will be voting members. Can we hear from the secretary?
Minutes from last meeting?
Minutes of the last meeting, yeah.
Okay. Baldwin Planning Board meeting minutes, 10/25/2018. Call to order. Blake called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Roll call: Joe Pierce, Norman Blake, Nick Ernst, David Strock, who arrived late. Was relevant.
It is.
Selectmen Dwight Warren and Jeff Sanborn, and CEO Russ. We read minutes from the last meeting, read and approved the minutes from 9/27 and from 10/18. First order of open business was the Fuller Gravel Pit. Discussion ensued regarding hours of operation, agreed 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturday 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. per minute from earlier meetings. Discussed minimum bond. Blake and Pierce discussed the $20,000 bond with an escalator clause with adjustment every 5 years based on the Consumer Price Index. Annually during the month of April, the landowner provides the board with a measured survey of the site showing areas in production, awaiting reclamation, and in reclamation. The planning board may, at its discretion, require a professional survey. The applicant shall also provide evidence each April that the bond is in place and up to date, insurance coverage is up to date, the reclamation material is still on the property, and all conditions are being followed. Discussion was brought up about buffers of vegetation needing to be 100 feet from right-of-ways and 200 feet from all of the boundaries. Buffer will be 250 feet from Route 11 right-of-way. Annually during the month of April, the landowner provides the board with a measured survey of the site. That, sorry, the same thing right before.
Yeah, we just said that. That's okay. That's important.
Motion by Pierce to vote on CUP with conditions discussed here and in previous minutes. Blake seconded, approved unanimously. Strock abstained due to arriving to the meeting late and missing the discussion. Discussed with Fuller that once he is insured in bonds, it needs to be presented to the CEO. Let's see, then we moved on. November 8th, town lawyer will be present to answer questions from the planning board. Then we discussed Nature's Wilderness. Jerry Brown mentioned that he was expecting an answer from the town regarding the determination on the cabins related to Nature's Wilderness. Blake stated that the lawyer was not available until November 8th. Pierce brought up that he and Blake were at the selectmen's meeting this week, and the selectmen went into an executive session with the town lawyer and did not invite the planning board members at the present. Pierce brought up that the planning board and selectmen might have different agendas or ideas. Pierce raised the question that he would like to have a different lawyer than the town lawyer. Selectman Sanborn stated that the executive session with the lawyer was not predominantly a land use issue and involved some other legal questions. Blake asked selectmen present that if the planning board had a disagreement with the selectmen and the planning board wanted to hire a lawyer, would it be funded and how? What would be the process to hire a different lawyer? Selectman Sanborn stated that the planning board would have to vote to hire a different lawyer, and then the selectmen would have to vote on approving the funds. Strock brought up that if the town lawyer is at all involved with compliance issues related to Nature's Wilderness, then it might make sense to have a different lawyer to review issues related to land use ordinance. Strock brought up that with the planning board discussing legal issues with the town lawyer in public, that if the selectmen were using the same lawyer to discuss non-public issues, this could lead to waiving attorney-client privilege. Pierce brought up that emails from the town lawyer should be made public. Strock handed out copies to the board and the applicant. Blake brought up questions he is proposing we bring up with the town lawyer regarding Nature's Wilderness. Is it a subdivision? Do cabins rented constitute a hotel or motel? What activities are permitted in or on Marston's Pond as a resource protection area? As far as enforcement, once the planning board sets the conditions and approves the application, must the selectmen enforce them? Is there a statutory requirement that the selectmen enforce the conditions? If selectmen do not enforce a particular aspect, what is the legal remedy? Does the planning board have legal standing to file a suit against the selectmen for not enforcing something? What townspeople might have legal standing to sue for violation of the land use ordinance? Then we discussed 8.1, existing violations. An existing application must be denied if a violation exists on the property. Can we proceed with consideration of the project before all violations are cleared up, or is it only on the date the application is voted on? Blake asked if the town has issued any violations or incidents occurring this past weekend at Nature's Wilderness. Sunderland stated that discussion has not happened to make a decision regarding a violation. Answer from Sunderland was unclear. If the planning board think there is a violation and the CEO and selectmen do not think so, what happened? Sunderland stated that this is the responsibility of the CEO. Pierce brought up David Laurie's answer to a question from the email submitted by Strzok, in which he states that other than a campground, other uses can be considered accessories. Pierce asked if accessories have to shut down when the campground isn't open. What opens and shuts legally with the campground? Pierce brought up that Brown had been vague about answering how do you define the size of the project. Selectman Sanborn asked when a public hearing might occur. Blake stated that it is unclear based on answers from his lawyer. Brown asked if we can have a site walk before snow. Blake stated that it is hard to say due to not hearing what the lawyer has to say. Strzok stated that once the lawyer helps clear up whether this is a campground, subdivision, or hotel, motel, etc. Pierce stated that the first submission occurred September 20th. Strzok asked if Brown had thought about fire plan. Brown stated that there are 2 exits. Pierce stated that many vehicles couldn't make the second exit. New business. Blake mentioned that the owner of the Whistle Stop discussed coming before the board to discuss adding a restaurant and expanding the square footage of the store and a possible multi-family dwelling above the store. Sunderland brought up a piece of property that 8 months ago it became a resource protection area. Sunderland asked if he is grandfathered because the discussion occurred prior to the designation of a resource protection area. Pierce stated if he took out a permit prior or not would be the designation for being grandfathered. Adjournment. Pierce made a motion to adjourn. Strzok seconded. Unanimous vote. Meeting adjourned at 8:33.
Move to approve as read. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes as read. Those in favor?
I just wasn't there.
Yeah. 4 abstention. Okay, Mr. David Strzok, you wanted to speak on the matter of, corporation.
Yeah, well, I think just generally to set the stage about maybe some stuff that's happened. It was interesting as he was doing the minutes, it seems as though we've been less inclined to do like executive session or anything like that for conversations with David Laurie so far. I don't think that like weighs our in the future, but I think we've tried to be more open about what guidance we've received coming. But anyway, putting that aside, I've got kind of 3 different things I wanted to raise. I have copies of all 3. I'll describe what they are. I only have like 10 copies, more than 10 of us here.
To share.
Yeah, or we could take a break and have them printed off if it's pretty substantial. So what has happened, at least in my view, since the last session was we decided, so at the last session we decided to ask David Laurie here to answer some of our questions so we could get some foundational guidance about whether this is a campground, a subdivision, a hotel. There's like 15 other things in the land use ordinance it could be. And we really felt like we were going back and forth about what it was, and it seemed that getting some legal advice was the best thing. All of our business has to happen in these meetings, which is always interesting because the world moves around us even though we don't meet. So some stuff happened since the last meeting, and there were a series of emails between different folks associated with Nature's Wilderness and David Laurie, and to a certain extent myself. And then I also put together a proposed conditional use permit drafts for purposes. That's the third item. So we have one packet of emails, which I'll describe in a second, another packet of emails, which I'll describe in a second, and a draft conditional use permit that we could use to talk about. So those are my three things. Can we keep going?
So 1 and 2 are two different email packets.
Yeah. So I shared with the board all three documents. We've had no discussions about them either via email or as a group. I shared them because they're lengthy, and instead of sitting here and reading them, I thought they should have it ahead of time. The first packet of emails is as of 11/2/18, and best I can tell, there was some discussion between David Laurie and Robert Sheeran. Is that Sheeran? Yeah. Robert, not Bob? Okay. So Bob. No. So they had some discussion about the corporation and what was going on. Somebody forwarded it to me, and so I suggested that there may be a problem because the corporation that's applying and owns the property is a Florida LLC, and typically to operate business in Maine, you have to have a authorization.
Excuse me, I am confused, and I think everybody else will be confused too. It was my understanding that initially you raised the issue of whether the Maine LLC, which has a very similar name to the Florida LLC, whether, because they've been administratively dissolved, the failure to file an annual report.
I did both. Yeah, actually, I did both in my email. I did a twofer in my email. It was both saying that the Florida corporation wasn't authorized to do business in Maine, and that there's a Maine corporation called Nature's Wilderness Resorts LLC that was administratively dissolved. So I was curious if that was a problem, and it kind of is. And so the two lawyers go back and forth talking about what should
I
happen.
hate to interrupt you.
Let him finish.
No, but he made him, he's calling me a lawyer. I am an authorized representative of Florida, of Nature's Wilderness LLC in the state of Florida. And I have been doing it as a capacity. I'm general counsel for them. But I'm not a lawyer practicing law in the state of Maine. I just wanted that clarified.
So you're a lawyer in Florida, but not here in Maine.
Right, yeah. I'm an authorized representative. I'm here as a, you know.
Could you say that word again? There's a technical word I don't understand.
Authorized.
Authorized, okay.
I'm sorry. Oh.
No, it's your hearing aid.
Yeah.
So hearing aid. Robert, so
That's the only thing. I'm sorry, Dave.
How
I didn't mean to interrupt.
How do you spell your last name on the phone?
It's
S-A-T-E-A-R-I-N.
Oh, wow, okay, I did not get that close.
all right. So he's a lawyer, but he's not playing one today. Fair enough. So they go back and forth whether or not it's legit for Nature's Wilderness Florida to be submitting an application, and whether or not we should reject it or do something because that's a problem. Because when they did submit, they weren't authorized to operate in Maine. They have since corrected that and obtained the authorization, but the question is, yeah. So that's email number one. And basically the email number one said, well, the board has discretion to decide what to do. Number two.
Dave, before we go on to that, can we resolve the email number one issues?
Well, email number two is kind of the same thing, so I just was gonna.
Okay.
So
Proceed.
there's some additional discussion between the Nature's Wilderness representative and David Laurie about whether or not what they did was okay or not. And again, David Laurie says it's up to the board. So that's packet number 1 and 2 of emails. which I think should be part of the record because of information that's been presented to the board. And the draft conditional use permits, put to the side for a second. So with all this rigmarole, about the authorization or whether they could do business, it seems to me we've got a couple different questions that we can do. We could reject the application, we could deny the application, we could, say, no harm, no foul, because they're now authorized to do it. We could say, technically it wasn't good, so we're gonna, as of today, the application's been submitted based on the material submitted. I mean, I think as a board, we have a whole bunch of different options. And I think Nature's Wilderness concern was that we'd start the whole process again and act like nothing happened, which I can imagine would be frustrating. And I certainly, So I think that's what's before the board as a threshold issue for Nature's Wilderness today. What do we do about the fact that they weren't authorized to do business when they submitted the application and talked to us?
A couple of quick definitions. Everybody knows what it means to just kind of let her fly and do nothing. There are two words, dismiss and deny. In our ordinance, if we, after hearing all the presentations and absorbing them, if for some reason we find that no way, no how does it comply with the ordinance, we can deny a conditional use permit. In 3 decades, I've never seen that done. Talking to Jack Murphy this morning, who was on the planning board in the 70s and 80s, I guess, he said he couldn't recall it being done. It's not something we want to do in Baldwin. The reason is, if an application is denied, the applicant cannot come back for anything similar or same for 2 years. We don't want to do that. Dismiss means give back the paperwork, or figuratively or literally, and the applicant refile, filing fee, new dates in any submissions, and in this case, we probably want a written evidence that there is authorization from the Secretary of State of Maine.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So you're saying if we dismiss the CUP, it can essentially be resubmitted?
Yes. There's no 2-year penalty, there's no penalty.
Resubmitted anytime.
After seeing Mr. Laurie's comments in the email chain, and thinking about it, I think the best course would be to dismiss and have the applicant come back with a cleaned up application again with evidence for 2 reasons. Number one, an application package is essentially a document. Things have to be just right. If someone or some group should come, let's say if the planning board should go through the procedures and approve the conditional use permit with reasonable conditions and things, if a neighborhood group should form and challenge and appeal the granting of the CUP to any applicant, one of the things the lawyers seem to look at is little flaws and little technical details, and I'm afraid somebody might contend that, well, you granted a permit to a ghost because at the time of the application they weren't LLC in Maine, or it wasn't authorized to do business, it was a ghost again. So again, I'd like to see this either withdrawn and resubmitted, or I suppose we could vote to dismiss, but no way do I want to deny.
Can I address this?
Sure.
All right.
We need to hear from you.
Right. present to you, as from the Secretary of State, that I received yesterday. It's a attested copy. You'll see the date on that.
November 2?
Right.
Yep.
I guess I ought to explain a little bit, all right? Nature's Wilderness,
If I can interrupt just a second.
Sure.
I remember from meeting you 2.5 years ago that you are a distinguished orator.
Thank you.
If you could, we've got a lot of stuff to cover.
I'm gonna go quick.
Good, that's what we
That's what I'm
need.
about to-
Thank you, sir.
In April of, well, actually March of 2016, I came in here, I think the end of March of 2016. I established Nature's Wilderness LLC. I'll remember one of them, Scott Efferman is one, and I'm the authorized
Now,
representative.
that was Nature's Wilderness LLC, Florida.
Florida.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Set it up as Florida, no question. I set it up as Florida to own property in Maine. Its exclusive thing was to buy a piece of property in Maine.
Mhm.
For lack of a better thing, I think it was a Twain property.
Yep.
Right? And right after we did that, I came in here to see, we hadn't purchased it at that time, we had an offering. And we wanted to put a campground, we approached you guys about, can we get a campground? Because we couldn't get a campground, we didn't want property, because that was the only thing we wanted for. I think y'all all remember that. I anticipated 3-6 months, maybe 9 months at the most, we'd be operational. We get everything done. I'm here 2.5 years later, and we're not operational, you know. But immediately after that,
Could I just ask you a question?
sure.
Whose fault is that?
Oh, I'm not saying, it doesn't matter whose fault
Well,
it is.
the problem is that some things have been said.
I don't
So,
disagree.
can we'll let him continue.
Yeah.
And then you're next to speak to something.
Right, and I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, right? Because I think most of it's ours. But
That's what I want to hear, thank you.
in July or August, I don't remember what, I set up an LLC here in Maine to do business. All right, that LLC, Nature's Wilderness Resort, was set up to operate the campground. All right, the other ones just own property. I can own property as a Florida LLC in the state of Maine, and that's fine. I don't think we've done any business because we're filing an application, not doing business. But regardless, we can argue that all day long. But that, I never started operating a campground, so I never needed to use the LLC. And that's another, it's an administrative dissolution. Once I got the campground, I'm going to reactivate that LLC. It's a simple thing to do, all right? Our engineer has got a diagram. We're gonna have 126 acres that's gonna be part of y'all, 120, I'm sorry.
That's right here.
Right, that's going to be a separate LLC that will be operating that, okay? All right?
That's a main LLC.
That's pretty, I don't wanna say 100%.
Yeah.
All right, but probably somewhere in there. I might change the name a little bit, whatever it might be, but we'll do it. But it'll be the same entity. I won't be establishing a new one. Might be changing the name.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't think I had to file the foreign statement. I did not think it, and I made a mistake. I should have done that for this, but I didn't think we were doing business. I was going to be doing it there. Didn't do it. Then, when Mr. Lowry brought it to my attention, immediately, I already had the form in my computer from like 2 years ago, just never filed it. Immediately filed it, you can see right there, the state has accepted it. There's no longer a nullity whatsoever. We're authorized to do business here, and we will do business here under that corporation. That's the owner of the property. That's the only one that could have filed the application, as I understand it. So it has to be that way. There's no ghost. So I am not worried at all about any challenge. It won't delay us. If somebody challenges us or your decision, we will defend it. And because I want to go forward. You know, to resubmit it, I think it will delay it. But if you accept it, we're authorized to do business here today. We were authorized to do business here on last Friday. So our application has not been approved. I think, correct? So, you know, when you approve it, when you make the decision, hopefully it'll be, but next year I'll submit. I won't let it dissolve. So that's kind of a background of why it was done that way. And like I said, I apologize. I was wrong. I should have done it, right then, but I set up the I didn't realize the corporation was dissolved.
It's good that you guys are still friends. I say it's good that you guys are still friends.
They don't have.
Mr. Laurie, I saw your eyebrows raised when, Mr. Sharon, stated that, filing an application is not doing business. Do you?
Well, it's not doing business, but it's doing something more than being the mere owner of property, and that's what the statute says.
Right. The statute that I brought, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
But there's section 1629, I think I'm correct in that there's no penalty whatsoever for not filing the statement. And it doesn't make the activity invalid. So that's what I'm relying upon now. Not so much that we weren't doing anything but owning that. I'm saying if I had never filed for the statement, I would have Mr. Lowry and I would have been in disagreement. I said, we haven't done anything except own the property. I kind of said, I think you're right, and I filed this. And by filing this, it makes any act we've done no longer invalid. That's what 1629 says. It's like when you go into court and you're not authorized to do business in the state, or you've been administratively dissolved. Judge says, whoa, I'm gonna stay here. Go outside, go pay your fee, get it in, you come back in an hour and you resume it. So we don't even have to stay it. If I hadn't have done this, you could stay the proceeding, you wouldn't have to dismiss it. You know, the acts we've done by filing the application are not invalid.
So he keeps saying the same thing. So, Joe, you want to say?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, when I hear talk about whose fault anything is, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of angry talk coming from the Nature's Wilderness ends about how we have not granted a permit, how we've slowed things down. Let's hurry up. We need a site walk. We need the permit now. And we only got something that looked like an application on September 20th.
I know, I agree.
And so to think we're delaying things at all is insulting to me.
I didn't mean to insult you.
So, whenever I hear that people are angry we've been delaying things, it upsets me.
I did not insinuate what
You haven't,
right.
but it's been done. You are representing somebody who has done that.
Right. And
so, it would be nice to recognize that on your part.
I did.
Okay.
And I do. I'm saying
So I'd just like to ask Mr. Blake, how long did it take us to grant the gravel extraction permit that we just granted to Wayne Fuller? How many months?
He came in, what, June or July, was it? No, he came in last fall.
Yeah.
And things, he didn't have his surveys done. And then he came back in what, June and July, and revved up the engine again?
Yeah.
And we finally granted it, what, last week?
Yeah, so July, August, September, October, 4 months, 5 months, normal. That's normal.
Well, something really simple,
Yeah,
a
that's
lemonade
something
stand
really
or something like that, you can often get that through in 4 to 6 weeks.
okay. I don't need a lemonade.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if a gravel pit, as you know, is a potential problem to the neighbors, and we have to do that right. Again, we need to do this right.
It was my understanding, and one of the things that you guys want to do is how we were classified, and I think that I provided everything we needed. I did to Mr. Lowry that, it would be his account grant.
So I know we're discussing the dismissal part.
Right.
But I just want an understanding on your part that this is not, a fast food planning board. You don't order at the microphone over there and pick up your permit here. And that's not because we're trying to delay. We, as a planning board, I think have always tried to see how to make any business that comes before us, we've tried to see how to make it work. we try to listen to the applicant, and we try to listen to the people in the town, the neighbors, people who talk about the application, come to us to talk about it. We try to make it work, and it takes time sometimes. I would hope that Nature's Wilderness would value this service. We have had people come and thank us because we took a project, we helped them with their project by being the forum where things got talked out. Things are going to have to be talked out,
Great.
okay?
And
I want this
I'll be glad to
understanding.
tell you, thank you, if you just
You know,
go forward.
By the way, I'm not sure if the other members of the planning board, if I told them what I went and done, was it Selectmen's workshop or meeting? I don't know. Not this Tuesday, way last Tuesday, 9 days ago. I told, Gary was talking about things were dragging. And I committed that for all of us, that the planning board will be operating on the 27th of December. Usually we take Christmas week off or something's up. We got stuff happening. The planning board realizes that this ain't just a lemonade stand. That for various reasons, it's been slow coming to us. If you've got business, you know, Christmas is over, let's get back to work, so,
Could I ask you a question, Mr. Blank?
yeah.
You may have to refer it to Mr. Laurie, but could we dismiss this application, but continue to discuss it?
I believe we can because we have pre-application discussions with a lot of people to find out what's feasible and what flies. I believe we can. I would like to do so. Again, I want to get this done before I'm a real old man. And, you know, it's a complicated thing. It's going to take time. Mr. Laurie, do you feel that we can, should we dismiss the application tonight, can we have pre-application?
Yes, you can, and you're not yet, as I understand it, not yet made a decision on completeness. You're not yet really complete.
Right.
The next step for the process. So, you're still at a preliminary stage.
Yep.
And you couldn't do that, I suppose. You have to decide whether there's anything to be accomplished by doing that. I'm not sure there is, other than to make sure that they have done it right and that no one can challenge it. As I indicated before, I think it's still in the discretion of the board to make this decision. And the statute is not 100% clear, that's for sure. Mr. Sharon makes some good points in the emails, and you could well decide to go ahead and proceed and make a determination on completeness and schedule a public hearing and all the rest of it. But you also could decide to go the other way, and the court is not likely to say that you're wrong either way after the fact. The lawyers here understand the difference between mandatory and directory requirements as well, and this is something which, after the fact, is seldom determined to be illegal. After the fact, once you've made a decision on it, it's unlikely either way. It's unlikely to be challenged.
My thought is that I would like us to dismiss the application if the applicants don't choose to withdraw it, and continue talking tonight, going down through the list of questions, which would define whether it's merely a campground or whether it's a subdivision, whether it's a motel, hotel, whatever, and that will help us move ahead or it will help the applicants in the interim between now and our next meeting revise their application and then present it to us. That makes any sense at all?
It's an alternative.
I would request, as from Nature's Wilderness, that it not be dismissed, and you know, and if I didn't, and not from a delay, I just don't think it's necessary. I don't see a need to refile exactly what you've got. There's no difference today. If we were here last Tuesday, I would say I would withdraw it, I would not dismiss it. I will never say anything lying, regardless of what it is. But there's no question in my mind, if it was last Tuesday or Wednesday, or even Thursday, because the state had not accepted. I filed the application last Thursday, and if it was last Thursday night, I probably would go along and say I withdraw. I don't want to withdraw it now because I can't do anything tomorrow. I will submit an application. It's exactly what you've got. And it's, you know, I don't think you guys are, because I guess a new application, I'd have to pay a new fee.
$150,
Yeah, I would say, I'll pay that, you know. But I'm saying, I can't submit anything new tomorrow. Then again, last week,
It would have to be submitted at the next meeting.
So what
David.
I would like to see, so, you know, this in and of itself is not a huge deal.
Right.
But it raises another element of uncertainty with this applicant. You know, somebody entered into an agreement with the selectmen a couple weeks ago. I don't know who that entity was or that person was, but somebody entered into an agreement. I don't know if that's legally valid.
You're
or not.
referencing the road,
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
permissions or whatever.
I just think we should be, you know, totally above board. And, you know, if this happened to some other situation, I think we'd do the same thing, where we say, you know, we're going to dismiss the application because the entity that submitted it didn't have the authorization to submit it
At the time.
at the time. But, you know, it is a bit of a technicality, and so say that we will accept the submissions to date, which are the two, submissions, and.
The map and the book.
Well, there's two maps and two books.
Right, yeah.
Dated like, September 20th and October 11th. And accept those as the application and not require a new fee. So in some ways, it's a paper dismissal because we're accepting the documents submitted, as, the submissions of the entities.
And I would just make today a submission.
Today would be the submission date, and we start,
I think, I agree.
uh,
I have no problem with that whatsoever. That is, we got it, we go.
so.
Mr. Laurie, I see.
I don't see, you don't have the ability to waive fees and stuff.
I'll pay the fee.
This reminds me, the first time I was here, was, the Tower case.
15 years ago or so.
15 years ago, I remember Matt Manahan, who was
Yes.
here, was taking out his wallet and saying, "I'll pay the fee."
I'm getting ready to do it. You take credit card or cash?
Can we treat the fee that was submitted as the fee for this application, or do we have to require the fee? If that's the only issue.
I think $150 is chump change in the scheme of this.
Right.
Anyway.
My airplane.
So other than the fee, is it doable?
Well, I don't see it as making a whole lot of sense if you're gonna do that, because you have not yet voted completeness, you're not under any time frame yet to make a decision. So I don't think that cuts one way or the other. To do that would be highly irregular. You know, it would muddy the waters some to do it that way. You know, I think you could certainly, carry on, you know, on the basis that, they have now cured their circumstance, And, I'd be more comfortable with the board making that decision than what you just suggested now. I think you either dismiss it or you, go forward. I don't think there's a third and in between on it.
Okay.
It's not just a fee.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with doing anything but dismissing and starting over. I mean, if you need to change a couple dates, at the next meeting with a new application, fine. It's just cleaner to me.
I think a new application needs to be submitted anyway. We were hoping to get some guidance from Mr. Laurie tonight about what's a camp and what's a motel.
Try.
Excuse me?
I will try.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to you pretty soon, I hope.
When we get that information, then you have a better shot at submitting an application that makes more sense. And, done.
So we would dismiss, but we would continue to go
Yeah.
forward with preliminary discussion.
Yeah.
And the only impact is the applicant has to send us new documents, which may or may not change.
You'll bring them to the next meeting, present them.
Yeah, well, you can file them with the CEO and then we bring them up, but we continue forward today so we don't lose what
Yeah.
is an
Well, this
accepted
gentleman's
date.
come all the way from Florida, the gentleman there has come
Okay.
from Cape Elizabeth or South Florida.
All the way.
One of those foreign places.
Okay, I'm good with that, as long as we don't lose,
No,
lose
I,
tonight.
again, everybody's here, let's get some work done. I would entertain a motion to dismiss.
Make a motion that we dismiss the CUP.
I just said, oh, yeah, okay.
See,
Do I hear a
entertain
second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Well, only that, I just wanna make sure that we all understand that the only impact is that the applicant has to resubmit the documentation, and pay the fee.
Yeah.
That there's no other
No
negative or prejudice imposed or implicated by our dismissing it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you're going to a workshop session.
Essentially, yes. Matt, anything? No comment. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to dismiss? Hearing none, all those in favor? It appears to be unanimous. Okay, again, new application next meeting. However, let's see if we can clear up some wonderment. Mr. Laurie, one of the questions I wanted to ask is it a motel? Can you rent a cabin?
Well, the problem is, the ordinance, defines campground as being camping. It does not, I'm not sure the way it's written, that a campground, is very hard to use.
I got it right here.
Can you say the question again for me?
What?
Can you say the question?
My question to Mr. Laurie was, is it a motel? Now,
First you have to see if it's a campground.
yeah, you wanna read the definition, or would you like me?
Go for it.
Okay, campground, land upon which one or more tents are erected or trailers are parked for temporary, parentheses not more than 6 months in a year, use for a fee on sites arranged specifically for that purpose. The word campground shall include the words camping ground and tenting grounds. So basically, we're talking about Winnebagos and top tents and something that's directly in between them.
And the it says trailers, and I guess RVs qualify as being trailers.
It's a generic.
The real issue comes down to the cabins, and the cabins are definitely not residences, not residential uses as such. Definition of hotel and motel in here.
I got it.
Commercial building or group of buildings with sleeping rooms built to accommodate or impede travelers and other transient guests. A hotel or motel shall may include restaurants, facilities where food is prepared and the gonna have a store, and maybe a restaurant here, so that would be allowed either way. I mean, you could have a camp store or a restaurant, as an accessory use to a campground, or a hotel or motel. Arguably, a strict reading of these two ordinance provisions would preclude, the rental cabin arrangement. On the other hand, that could be an accessory use to having a campground. You know, an accessory use is defined as being, a use or structure which is customarily and in fact both incidental and subordinate to the principal use or structure. The term incidental in reference to a principal use or structure shall mean subordinate and minor in significance to the principal use or structure. Accessory uses, when aggregated, shall not subordinate the principal use of the lot. We've got hundreds of campsites or recreational vehicle sites anyway, and as I understand it, 5 cabins, only.
Is that right?
Something like that.
Well, no, 2. Well, our plan calls for 5. Yeah, it's 2, and they're on wheels. They're not permanent.
No, well, that's good. That makes it a little bit clearer. Unfortunately, they're all grouped together in one place, and arguably, I looked at the plan, and arguably, there's and that's next to the store and so forth. So arguably, that area is being treated differently than the rest of it. I assume that they're gonna be rented out.
Yeah, so it's 5 right there.
Okay.
It's my understanding, I shouldn't say I assume, it's my understanding of the purpose of this review, we can assume that they're going to be rented out by, the same people who take care of booking, reserving, the rest of it. So if I came there, I'd have a choice of going into one of the cabins versus, going into the pavement. And to that extent, it starts to look like an accessory use. I don't know, I'd like to see some evidence that's customary. I mean, it's obviously subordinate to the campground use.
Right.
I'd like to see some evidence that in fact it's common to do this sort of thing in campgrounds, to have, this kind of a structure in it, because, you know, if you have a permitted use, you can then have an accessory use to it, I think the board will need to interpret that language, but I think you can conclude, or you can conclude against it, in fact, that this qualifies as accessory use. The only experience I've ever had with this kind of arrangement is at Baxter State Park, where they have the cabins and lean-tos along with the tent sites. I don't know if it makes it customary to do this sort of thing, but it's not unheard of. Perhaps the applicant might think about furnishing some evidence for the record that this is frequently the case. The campgrounds frequently also rent out bare bones cottages, whatever. I guess we got to get something in some representations in writing as to how these cottages are going to operate and so forth before we make a decision on it. And what's done elsewhere, how common is it? And the opponents could present evidence to the contrary if they wanted to contest that issue, but I think in the end, I think it's likely that it's going to be determined to be accessory, but it depends on the evidence and.
Josiah?
Well, 2 follow-up questions. If a cabin is an accessory use for a store or a restaurant, does that mean it can only be open in the April through October 6-month window, the camp is open.
Correct.
Okay.
But now I can tell you, the campground will only be open from May first to October 15th.
All the facilities.
Everything, nothing will be up, and the only person that would be there after that would be we have a house there that I cover.
So that was my second question.
A keeper.
Right,
Second question. How do we
and a
treat-
security,
How do we treat the house that is on the property?
that's not rented.
I mean, how do we treat it? I understand that,
Yeah.
I just wanna know how to treat it legally.
Right. No, it's the
Can
manager.
I try something? So what, the way I conceptualized this was, a little parallel to what you two were talking about, but slightly different. What I looked at this as is a campground with 8 accessory uses. And I thought that our job would be to flesh out those accessory uses in a way that made them consistent with the land use ordinance. So for instance, if you have a campground, and there's a definition of a campground, when it can be open, when it can be closed, and I was hoping the applicant would commit to a particular start and end date time. And what we could do is we could define the different accessory uses through conditions to make sure they didn't go into some other use. For instance, the cabins, if those become dwellings, it's a different project. And so what I was conceptualizing was saying, you applicant are asserting to us those are not dwellings. Here are the things that cannot happen for those never to become dwellings. And have those as conditions. And what I did is I wrote up a 7-page draft of doing that, breaking down the campground and the conditions associated with the campground, retail business, service business, commercial outdoor recreation, community building, eating and drinking place, hotel or motel, neighborhood store, and primitive recreation. I went through each application and pulled out the elements of each one of those. And then what I thought we could do is go through the accessory uses and work on conditions of all the accessory uses, to make sure they don't become something else. Because if they become something else, then it's no longer a campground with an accessory use. It could become a hotel motel with some campgrounds up the way. And I don't mean to cut short the discussion that was going on, but I would like to pass these out. So what this is it's really, I truly believe it's easier to correct than it is to create. Creation is hard. So I like to put something out there and then we can pick it apart. It's not right in any way, shape, or form. I already know it's wrong in like 4 places, but
I appreciate it.
But I thought it was a place to start the discussion because I feel like we're awash in information and we need some structure. I don't have enough copies for everybody. We may actually want to stop and make some copies, but there's 4.
Before we move on to that, while Mr. Laurie is here, I'd like to continue with the questions of the board. Ed?
Yeah, well, and this may help drive some of those questions. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Some of the questions have nothing to do with this.
Right.
But some of them have quite a bit to do with this, so.
Okay. Yeah, make sure that your principals get stuff.
There's 4.
Do you have anything, Mr. Laurie,
I need to make
more
some
to say on the, motel issue?
I think we covered that. I think we're set on that, on what the parameters of it are, we need some evidence to support, concluding that it's a, accessory use, and of course, if it's an accessory use, it can be limited to time, and space.
Yeah, if you want to finish your question about the house.
The house, arrangement, and caretakers wouldn't necessarily be limited to just market.
What's ask the applicant what the house is?
It is, it's for the owner of the property or manager of the property will be living there, you know. Yeah, when I say year round, they're not gonna be there all the time, you know. November, December, January, February, I can tell you that.
What's that matter with, yeah.
I hesitate, but what it would be is once the campground is open, you know, we will have security there. When, you know, even if the caretaker's not there, I say caretaker for lack of a better word, really managers will be. It's when he or she is not there, we'll have security there. You know, it'll be the
By
camp.
security, do you mean people?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
But we've got a gate. The 250 sites will all be enclosed when we're closed during the off season. That will be enclosed. No one will be allowed in other than, you know, maintenance people and things like that. You know, workers on the ground, we might be doing some improvement, but we won't be doing a lot of anything at the campground from like December, January, February. Well, I shouldn't say that. We could be working inside, doing different things like that. But right now, we're doing limited stuff, you know. But one of the things we're doing that is we don't have approval yet also.
So where's the 25-room motel or hotel?
25, where?
There's no hotel, motel?
No.
Okay.
No, we have 5 cabins is the only thing that I would like to anchor the cabins, their own wheels, just like we're gonna have what's called glamping. Glamping is the big thing in camping today. I mean, if you go to any campground, they have cabins.
Yeah, we're familiar.
So I mean, you know, we're not doing anything that's new, you know, but I just want everybody to know that, you know, the only thing that would be there year round would be the house that's there. There was a house there when we bought it.
Will campground guests have any time to be in the big house? I call it the lodge, but.
No, that's private residence.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, they will not, I mean, if they want to come in and see the guy, yeah.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, not as a, come in and, you know, there's a bar here in order of.
No, it's a 3-bedroom house. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sleeping in one room tonight, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the house or the proposed house, just to be clear?
Yeah, he's talking about the house.
The lodge, I call it the lodge.
The
The original
not a lodge.
property.
Just asking how to treat it legally.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
already a single-family residence, though, right?
Correct.
And it's-
Yeah,
it's
it is.
grandfathered.
Oh, yes.
Because Dr. Marston had his camp there.
Right,
So that lease is grandfathered.
Yeah.
exactly.
No, I wanna know if it's being accelerated into something else.
No.
Okay, another question, is this a subdivision?
It would be very unlikely, that it would be determined to be a subdivision. Maine has this expansive subdivision statute with 2,000 exceptions to it. A campground was once determined to be a subdivision in Maine, so it's not a crazy question.
Right.
However, the difference is whether there is an advantage given to, some people over the general public in terms of the use of the property. I guess the best example, in the case where the Supreme Court tried to distinguish that prior case, which determined that even though each person had a 1/80th undivided interest, they had priority. They could get, they had a reserved spot. I mean, they could always get this particular lot, the one with the view. And that made the difference, and that's why it was a subdivision. The court said if it's think of it like an auditorium, where you have a bunch of empty seats. And if anybody can get into any of the empty seats, any of the time, all of the time, I should say, then it's not a subdivision. But if in fact people have priority rights to a particular seat there, it could well be. So
that be like a timeshare condo, for instance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you're
Kinda like
saying
the
that, like
lodging
somebody, what about like a seasonal rental of, property?
Well, a seasonal, and renting, a person renting for the season would not would not be enough, I would think. But if they had a right to not only have it for this season, but priority for next season and the season after that, in a particular place, I mean, that doesn't mean that, you said, like a timeshare, there is a timeshare statute, but if in fact, they were to convert so that people could, in fact, book a particular, timeshare, not a particular lot, but the right to come, I should say. If they have just the right to come and they don't have a particular, lot number that they are going to be, able to come to, then, I don't think it's a subdivision. But if you start saying that somebody has.
You can rent the same one you had last year or get priority for that.
If you're going to give out rights to people to rent particular places ahead of the general public, I mean, it doesn't have to be on a first come, first served basis, all the time. You can reserve places, but you can't reserve them permanently, it seems to me, because that's where the division comes in. But it's a crazy statute.
Yeah.
It says,
And that happens, I mean, I don't camp anymore, but I used to. That happens at every campground that I've ever been to, as long as you pay the fee, you're basically granted the rights to that campsite for that weekend.
You
or
get
for that.
site 78 on the
Well, what
Fourth of
he's
July
saying is you
weekend.
can't then have the right to rent it again the next year.
Right, that happens all the time, like you go down to Nason's Beach,
Yeah.
Any campground is the same way.
the 20 prime spots are the same people every year, because they give those people priority.
They have to pay.
So what you're saying is that should be a subdivision.
If that happens, it's arguably more like a subdivision than a
it
campground.
gets closer to being a subdivision, the greater the rights you give out to particular places.
But you would have, but
But it's
if
still.
I could interject, is if you came to me and you said, I want this site for the next 10 years, and I grant that to you, that I would have a problem. What you can do though, you say, I'm renting it for this season, great. End of the season, you say, I wanna rent it again, I'm gonna rent it to you again the next year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I haven't sold it to
I mean,
you for 10
I
years.
guess it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, as long as it's only happening between April and October.
Right, that's what I reckon. They'll pay for that season, they won't pay for,
And they can come back and get the next season if they're the first ones in, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not barred from doing it successive seasons, but they have to make a deal for the season each time.
Okay.
But if I tell them you can rent it for the next season, you get the first right of refusal, is that a problem?
Well, I think a lot of places, you leave on Saturday and you tell the guy at the desk, hey, I want site 78 for 4th of July weekend again next year, okay?
He don't give it to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I've had that, I don't think that's unusual.
What I'd suggest that you do is get the applicant furnish a plan, a management plan for these sites and how they're going to rent them and on what basis they're gonna rent them. And you should tie that into a condition that they have to come back, the determination of whether a subdivision is triggered if they change the management plan that you've adopted, that they propose. So I think the burden is on them to, propose how they're going to handle it to avoid triggering a subdivision.
Makes sense. Josiah, you had one question that you wanted to ask. You said something to me about a week ago. I can't remember what it was.
So, the boundary between the business and the personal, enjoyment of the property. So, for instance, it's now, we're gonna go through October 15, it's now October 16. And I'm gonna be out there with 5 friends, running around on ATVs having drag races. And, I'm gonna assume that's okay. But at what point as we approach the number, say, 500 friends, does this become something that maybe even if nobody's charged any money for, that we have a say in as a planning board?
Well, I think you can draft appropriate conditions to deal with, nuisance, situations, and it's unfortunate, that they had this, or it's fortunate from your standpoint that you had this experience last fall, with it being unregulated, and, maybe, there's no reason that I can see why you wouldn't want to regulate it, not just during the season, but for the rest of it too. You know, there's probably no problem, dealing with snowmobiles or whatever else can go on this property as a condition of approval of the campground.
So that would be, even though it was a private person on their land, granting permission to only friends and family, we could still regulate
But
that.
how many friends do you have,
I have millions.
You can regulate the activities that go on the property, events that go on the property in terms of the duration and, you know, because otherwise you can have traffic issues and
Okay.
other problems arise. And otherwise, they can use it for compatible other uses. So it's, it'd be a good idea for you to specify, what you want to do with regard to that as a condition of approval.
And I think perhaps that's simplified by Mr. Sharon's statement that, you know, between some date in the fall and some date in the spring, nothing's gonna happen there.
Well, I put it, if there's a void, if something will fill the void if there's nothing prohibited. I mean, if for a private property, unregulated private property, you, I suppose, which is the situation right now, I suppose that the owner can, absent a condition in the ordinance, a provision in the ordinance which prevents events like the one that happened, last month, private property owner can do what they want if there isn't an ordinance on it. Town meeting can impose conditions on these properties, but you have the opportunity to do it selectively on this property because you're asking for a permit.
Right. Okay. So because it's a CUP it triggers a CUP application, their 100-acre field is different from Josiah's 100-acre field.
It is, because he's not before the board asking for
Right, okay. Yeah. Absent a complete
As
nuisance.
long as there's a rational basis
Yeah.
for, attaching the condition.
Yeah.
And here, I believe there is one, you know, we've got, improved property which is, otherwise subject to abuse in the wintertime, whatever conditions is raised.
My only thought is, if everything is contained on the property, you know, noise, dust, explosions, and there's no great flow of traffic off the property, then it's on the property, but when it starts when effects start impinging off the property, then yeah, it's something we ought to think about.
Well, if you can come up with performance standards, you can certainly impose them.
Okay. Now, this is kind of general. Enforcement. Once the planning board sets conditions and approves the application, are the selectmen required to enforce those, or is it discretionary?
It's discretionary, and just as well, not only is it discretionary with the selectmen and the code officer, you know, not only is that true, but, private abutters can't sue to enforce a town ordinance, even, you know, unless they have activity itself constitutes a private nuisance, they cannot say they're in violation of section 2.5, and therefore, I can sue you to shut you down. In some states, I was talking to a lawyer from California earlier today, who said, well, if they can get a mandate, well, you clearly can't, you bring a mandamus action. In Maine, they made it a matter of prosecutorial discretion, the selectmen, mainly on the basis that the selectmen have to decide whether they're gonna spend the money on the enforcement of the ordinance or not.
Which can be considered.
And they may decide that it's de minimis, it's not worth fighting over.
So, and the corollary to that is, of the townspeople, who, what in the town as individual citizens or a group have standing to sue for remedy or enforcement.
Well, only if they can show it's a private nuisance, they can't sue because it's an ordinance violation. I have a case in the law court right now that I'm working on, which will probably, the case will probably result in hopefully some change in that, absolute discretion that they enjoy right now, but, so I'm gonna win the case, and then the town's gonna decide whether to enforce it or not against a concrete plant which is actually operating at the moment.
Be leery of a lawyer that says you're gonna win the case.
He ain't lost one yet.
I've lost my share.
I have to.
Actually, a quick story. Many years ago, when the tower thing was coming up, Norman McKenney and I interviewed Mr. Laurie to decide if we wanted to hire him as our town lawyer. We had a nice chat, and it was all about towers and things like that. At the end, David started to put his stuff together, and, well, guess it's time to say goodbye. I said, I got one more question. I said, why did the people over on Oak Hill Road in Standish lose their case? And I said, well, the law wasn't on their side.
I don't even know the case you're talking about.
You don't? It was a cell phone tower
I don't remember that.
in Standish. Well, I did my homework, so it's okay.
Oh, that was the one where it was in the middle of the only scenic, vista in the town, and that was part of the comprehensive plan was to protect scenic vistas.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I lost that one because the law court said then that they've said over and over again since, that, there are lots of things on a comprehensive plan, including economic development and so forth, and that's just one of them. So it's up to the town to decide.
I figure if you ask a lawyer a hard question and he answers it, honestly, that's the guy you have to
The
have.
real reason why they picked me was because I'm from out of town, I don't have conflicts.
What other questions did we have there? Okay, we've gone back up to there. Well, we got David dragged out of the big city.
As far as enforcement, does the planning board have legal standing to file a suit against the selectmen for not enforcing the
Evidently not.
Yeah.
What else you got? Townspeople, we talked about that.
Existing violations. Again, from 8.1, the ordinance in here, the existing application must be denied if a violation exists on the property. Our question is, can we proceed with consideration of the project before all violations are cleared up, or is it only on the date the application is voted on?
Well, yes, when you get to the end, you can't have any violations there. I don't think it's a problem until then, and I don't know that there are any, violations, code officer cited as violations.
Actually,
We ask it every time.
there's a septic system that's cleaned up. We're moving a septic, not a septic, old tank. That's really outstanding pink ticket item.
There was 3 holding tanks, we removed one,
Yeah.
there's still 2 left, but they're out of use, not being used, we have the agreement, they are coming out. We was gonna try to make them compliant, after talking to Jim Logan at Longview Partners, they could not be made compliant. So we have a septic design for a new setup, when we put that new setup in, they're out.
The general answer is we can consider an application, we just can't approve it until all violations are about.
Because it says must.
violations from the state, wasn't it? Didn't you
We got the letter
didn't
from
you
the
get
We
that?
got a letter from the D, good, bring that in with your
Right here.
submittal, excellent, that's gonna move things along. Campground, 10.4, campgrounds, this is the standards, campgrounds shall conform to minimum requirement. And this is talking about recreational vehicle and tenting areas containing, approved water carried sewage facilities shall meet the following, criteria. Basically, it says each, and I'm talking about those 3 or 5 cabins, just above, yeah, those. There's what, how many is now? There's 2. And you want 3. Okay. Each shall contain a minimum of 5,000 square feet, not including roads or driveways. Those seem awful close. Have you measured that out?
The lot itself?
No, it's sounding to me like if those are just little cabins, each of them must sit on their own 5,000 square feet.
And they do.
It seem awful close. It's like 50 by 100,
The lot, yeah, exactly.
so it's a spaghetti lot.
That's spaghetti lot. There's plenty of room. You can go this way, but
Obviously, it's not a lot conforming to any.
I know, but
Yeah, but I mean, the benefit we have here is that this is located on the interior of the property, so, you know, you could certainly have them long and skinny, have them 40 feet wide or 30 feet wide, and you know, but I think we could demonstrate that each of the cabins has, I guess, a dedicated 5,000 square feet, if that's what the board is looking for.
well, I'm just, I didn't write it.
Yeah.
This is before my
Yeah.
time.
No, can I bring up another question we had for David in a minute?
Yeah.
Just because you asked me that question.
Mm-hmm.
The other one we brought up here was something about, what activities are permitted in or on Marshall Pond Resource Protection Area.
Yeah. The DEP got after ourselves. We hadn't had a valid, shoreline zoning ordinance in Baldwin since what, 92? We tried to bring one up in 98. We got spanked and we got so gun shy that we didn't do anything until the DEP got on our butts. Marston's Pond is now classified as RP, Resource Protection, which, and let me find it, resource protection, the things you can do are, it should be about page 11 on my book. The things you can do in, the index on this thing is all off.
Is the rest of it in rural?
Yeah, but the pond,
There's no island?
huh?
There's no island?
No, it's a oval pond.
Are you talking about the entire parcel, David?
No,
No, he asked about Highland. On the upper end of our property is Highland. But that's not part of the campground.
yeah,
Right.
that's,
Wow. Yeah, I would
The campground is
I think-
all rules.
be careful about terminology, because I think my desire is to treat the parcel as a single unit, because your accessory uses are utilizing the entire property.
No, not at all. Not even
You're not
close.
gonna have hiking through the rest of the property, or mountain
We
biking?
have over 1,000 acres.
I
that we
understand.
own. It's not part of the campground.
but this,
Well, no, this is a huge point.
Well,
So
listen,
what do you mean?
to that point, you're not applying for the campground on all the, how many, 6 or 7 plots, Gary? You're just applying on map, whatever it is, lot 7?
Listen to what David Strock's saying. He's saying something very interesting.
Okay, go ahead, David.
So you gave us these maps,
Right.
and the maps, so I never saw any lines on the map.
So if we look, understanding that this was going to be a question
Right.
about from today. So what we've done is we've outlined the entirety of the plan set that you see.
Right.
Everything that encompasses all of the campsites and both ponds, and this graded area here is approximately 120 acres. It includes both both ponds, both pond areas, and all the
Right.
campsites around.
But that's not a legal, but there's no,
That's not
there's
a
no.
I think we would have to,
There's no deed or anything, is there?
Is there what?
There's no deed.
Just
E,
that
E,
property.
E.
I know what it is.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were questioning my accent.
No.
So is there a deed for that parcel?
Yeah, well, our deed, all right, have 3 deeds,
Okay,
okay? On 3 deeds, 3 separate lands, all right? Camp Twain is 16 parcels. Okay?
now, so 3 deeds, so Camp Twain is
1 deed.
all 1 deed.
Right, the first that's what, the property that I came in here on in March of 2016 to develop a campground on.
Okay,
Nature's Wilderness then bought another adjoining property of approximately 300 and some acres.
so how much is the Camp Twain deed that the
There's
one,
16 parcels in that.
I don't know what that
How
means.
many acres?
Huh?
How many acres?
Oh, I want to say roughly 400. I'm
The application is designated by the Baldwin tax map, map 7, lot 22.
right.
We understand that you own other tax parcels other than that.
Correct.
And so all of the activities in this will be on map 722.
Right, and
So map
like the other,
722 is 400 acres?
I don't know.
no,
It's 452 here, but.
452?
The question I would have is, so with the DEP on a large site, typically we will provide a description of the project area. So if we have, say we have 1,000 acres and we're dedicating 200 acres as part of the permit, we say this is the campground, Russ is retained by owner, we would be providing some type of description, legal description of that property. I think it's
right, correct, and that's being done as we speak.
So,
I met with
I
a
think you
surveyor,
misunderstood.
right, I met with a surveyor this afternoon. He's gonna meet with our engineer, they're getting together to parcel out what the campground will be, because it is a little confusing, because I have a deed for 16 parcels, which is called Camp Twain.
I don't know what a parcel is, don't use that term, because I have.
We only have map and lot involved, that's all we understand.
Okay, all I've got is a deed that says, has 16 parcels as a legal description, so I,
Yeah, I do.
yeah.
It's a, area of land defined by the.
Right.
So, but
It's
they
a
merge
term.
together, once it comes under one
If
deed.
you look at your,
If you trace it back,
Ah,
it's
okay,
just a
okay.
loose term.
It's a contiguous
Right.
lot though,
Yeah.
so it's one deed.
But I mean, I think that we're getting sidetracked.
No, I'm going back.
Okay.
So I'm looking at this application as the 452 acre lot and the use of that lot.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, as long
I think if we're saying that it's gonna be 120 acres, we'll have to provide a legal description of the perimeter of that campground.
Okay.
Is that what you're?
The point is that you're saying you're going to do things. Are these activities limited to the 120 acres? So nobody's gonna hike outside of those 120 acres. Nobody's gonna do any of the other things you're asking to do.
Fishing,
No ATV riding outside the 120 acres.
That's all that's really-
Any of the accessory uses.
That would be difficult, because we're not putting fences up. You understand?
I think the reality is that, so if the board, if the activities of hiking and biking and riding ATVs are sort of part of the campground activities, then I think that we'd have to keep it open. We'd have to have the whole property.
yeah, because we have like a highfalutin word for those. We call those, where is it? Primitive recreational activities and commercial outdoor recreation. So once you offer that to the users, then you are under a use under the permit, and so we would be permitting, because I'm actually not worried about the 100 acres between the campsite, and the next border. I'm worried about the border.
Yeah.
And so you can hike all you want in the span between those two things, but I have some stuff to say about the border and what you're gonna do at the border. So that's why it's really important for me what your border is, because where you define your border is gonna depend on what I have to say about the border. And to me today,
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Well,
we'll work through it because
Right.
it's all in my head now.
Right.
But I would advocate strongly that the board look at this as 452 acre, and our restrictions are on that 452 acres. And so you say you have three other deeds, one's for 300 plus, and what's the other one for?
I think about two, but that's not deeded to the LLC, that's in a trust.
Okay,
I
so
control that.
that's something else, okay.
the application is for whatever is defined in Baldwin as map 7 lot 20.
That's 452 acres.
Yeah, okay. I would think that's
Yeah,
the
no,
application we
The
consider.
application is for whatever the applicant intends to use for the uses that are presented to us. So you could use all three properties for these uses, and that would be subject to the application.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's up for us to make that
Yeah.
decision.
No,
That's what I
not.
You're gonna have to explain that to me better, because I'm not getting it either way.
If you're gonna have an ATV track that goes through all three properties,
Right.
then they're subject to the application is subject to all three properties.
Oh, yeah, then you'd have to expand the application to
Right.
map 7 lot 22, 23, 24.
I don't know if they've merged properties or not, that's beyond my knowledge. All I know is, as of today, I have this far better understanding that we're talking about 452 acres. And that the border is that 452 acre, and they're going to tell me, I think, that the 300 acre property and the trust property are going to be excluded from the accessory uses that they presented. Is that?
Yeah, but I mean, you keep, I don't know exactly what you mean. You say somebody takes a hike. I don't think they'll know when they leave the 452 acres.
They will.
How?
There'll be signs.
But I don't care if somebody comes on my property. What do I care? That's my decision, not yours.
That's what, you're the applicant, I'm asking you.
No. I'm talking about, all right, I own 350 acres. All right? If somebody wants to come hiking on it, that's up to me whether I want to allow that or not. I'm not asking for a permit. I don't have to put a sign that says you can't though. That's my property.
But David said we can put a condition on your 452 acres because you're before us for an application.
I don't disagree, but I'm just saying, I can't stop somebody from walking off the 452 acres onto the other, I don't think. I'm saying, if you want me to, I don't know, you tell me how to do it and I'll do it.
Okay.
Are you planning to blaze trails through?
There are trails there.
No, but he's asking, are you
Blaze them is just to mark them, you know, are you gonna be advertising that you got 1,000 acres for people to play around on, or?
That I'm.
Just say yes, because you already have, just say yes, it's easy. Yes, you've already said it, so just say yes. Your website has 1,000 acres, 50
That
different
website
kinds.
is not operated, because we're not operating it. That is a potential website that was developed, thinking we were gonna be in operation. We're not in operation. That website, it might say 452 acres. I'm at this point, I'm just, we're only asking for a campground on this site. What we're gonna do with the rest of it, I guess we'll ask you to do that at that point.
Well,
You understand what I'm saying?
I do, but I don't think it's relevant
Mr. Laurie.
to the discussion.
yeah, if you're going to be advertising
I agree.
the resort as containing 1,000 acres, then 1,000 acres, needs to be approved for those activities.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying
And we have received information in a variety of different ways that the Nature's Wilderness Project has 1,000 acres of pristine wilderness for its guests.
and That is not in the application, is my
Which
understanding.
is our concern, that,
Right,
that
and
you
and so it won't be in part of it. I might sell the 350 units, I might not control that, is what I'm saying.
You could clean that website up though, and take some of the
I
stuff.
don't disagree with that, but the website it means nothing. Because somebody can call us up, we're not operational.
But you're,
I think we can demonstrate when we submit next time that the property that the campground is on, trails and everything whatnot, is, that's the limits.
I
I think
think we made an agreement a couple weeks ago that we would block, not block the end of the trails, but post the end of the
Right.
trails. And
Right.
we talked about that, we
And-
agreed.
and
Razor
our
wire or
question
something,
is,
yeah.
on the 452 or on the 1,000?
No, 452. I can tell you that right now.
we'll demonstrate that in the application.
Right.
of course.
Yeah, okay.
And that's basically what it boils down to is, I mean, we need to make sure that when the application is filed, it's based on a certain amount of time. And that's, we're not saying you have to build a fence all the way around the 452 acres. We're saying, we want, we may say that you have to put signs up, or you have to put something up. We're just trying to understand
I mean, if,
what you're actually talking
if
about.
some crazy renter brings his ATV there and goes off the trail onto somebody else's land and, busts up all these little new growth trees that are gonna be lumber in 50 years. I know you didn't do it, but you kinda made it happen, and we'd like to see if we can make that not happen.
Right.
And I think a great way to do this is to, put a limiting condition on the fact that the uses can't spread to additional parcels
Yeah,
without returning for a conditional use permit.
again, they've applied for doing this on map 7 lot 22.
Right.
If it's all on map 7 lot 22, cool.
Yeah, I don't think that's 452 acres.
That's what this says.
I'm sorry.
That's what the tax map says.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Is that camp 20? We bought it with more, yeah.
It's sheets, yeah.
The
map
tax
7.
maps are not good for navigational purposes, you'll only get lost.
Yeah. But that's all I have.
So that was very useful.
Okay, Nico, what else did we have that you wanted to?
well, we had started to talk kind of briefly about the resource protection designation, which then spun us off.
Oh, yeah. Anyway,
The Marston Pond.
huh?
The Marston's Pond.
Marston's Pond, we finally got our butts whooped enough by the DEP that we got into compliance.
Yeah, 'cause I got some letters from them, and I talked with them about this
Yeah.
about a year and a half.
Well, what they have done is increase a lot of shoreland stream setbacks beyond what we wanted. And right now, Marston's Pond is a RP, Resource Protection Zone.
When did that happen?
June of this year, June 18th, June of this year, it was a DEP thing to the town. And it's a conditional application of our submission, and it is essentially an order. I've been in touch with Mike Morse down at DEP.
That's who I spoke.
Yeah, Mike's a pretty good guy. And it is in effect, whether we like it or not.
But something else had been approved, and the order for some reason never got in.
And that was years ago.
That was,
Years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
that was like
so
20
anyway,
years ago. I think.
Marston Pond is now resource protection, and I can't remember now, I'll look it up. It's either 150 or 250 feet from the shore.
It was 100.
I think it's 100, it's either 150 or 250. Wes, what's the number that you recall?
Both shoreland and resource protection is 250 feet, but in the shoreland, you can't use the first 100, you can use the next 150. In the resource protection, you can't use the whole 250.
Yeah, okay, see? A fountain of knowledge. But anyway, make sure that any plans you have that are right around the Marston's Pond are away from that. And in a way, that kind of breaks my heart, because, I mean, you were here 2.5 years ago. If we had had a timely application and we could have had this all done, I believe you would have been grandfathered, but it didn't happen. And it frosts me because I have stream frontage, and they basically, the state of Maine basically stole another few acres off of me. I'm not gonna get into that. What else do we have, Nicole?
I believe those are all of our.
Okay.
Could I
Yes.
do a dead horse
Sure.
here? And this is because it came up before, and I just wanna make sure I know what's going on. On this other side, make sure I put it right side up. We talked about, is it 5,000 square feet for a tent site?
Yeah.
And, so, can we look at areas and say, the conglomerate inside this ring gives us enough square footage? We don't have to draw lines and say,
Put chalk on
this
the
is
ground.
where your 5,000 square feet is, that goes with that tent site.
So you take an aggregate for a zone.
Yes.
That
Is that,
seems to be easier to administer.
yeah, okay, it had come up before, we argued over it on
Wes?
Wednesday.
I brought that up a couple meetings ago, and I used this as an example. I think there's 16 campsites there, and I figured out the area by using, I addressed that density,
Yeah.
and using the 5,000, you can have 11 in that site and still keep the 5,000.
Okay.
But then,
Yeah.
so we have talked
Okay.
a little bit.
Yeah, so,
So when we talk in those terms, it would be great to have a map that shows what the applicant, what property the applicant intends to use for the square footage. So we all understand if it's, and frankly, I don't really care if it's an ugly looking lot, like jiggered or whatever, but just as long as, so we all know 20 years from now, you're not supposed to touch that area
right,
because,
to densify it more.
right, because I'll forget, I mean,
Right.
I already forgot. So to have a map that shows in some way what the applicant, so,
Show the zone.
How you're gonna account for the 5,000 square feet?
Yeah, it's just, you draw out a subzone, and you take the number of campgrounds, and, figure out how many square foot's in the subzone, take the number of actual campsites, divide into that. If it comes out to 5,000 per, you're good. If it ain't, just take out a campsite or two until the number says 5,000, and you do your
I
division.
think each one of the campsites is over 5,000, isn't it?
Okay,
We can provide that.
Right.
okay,
and that's just for
They're big sites.
tent areas containing approved water carried sewer facilities.
No, I think it's for any site.
Because the other one without water carried sewer facilities is 20,000 square feet, isn't it?
I gotta get back there.
So it says, shall contain a minimum of 20,000 square feet,
20,000 if you don't have
not including.
water carried sewage. That's half an acre.
What is water carried sewage?
Well, it's a pipe in the ground where you put number one and number two in.
So if you don't have that, so if you have to walk through a bathhouse, you have to have 20,000 square feet?
Evidently. Yeah, it does. It makes it so you don't hear the next guy in the pup tent snoring.
Anyways, that's, on my thing, it's page 3,
Yeah.
10 and 11.
Oh, it's different in all of them.
Yeah, no, this is.
No,
just,
his
I
does.
think we were assuming
my
you guys
notes.
are gonna go out and pee anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's only the girls that have to, anyway,
That actually does.
John, right, in the middle?
Jeff,
Jeff.
John,
That's right,
he works with me, he's up in Caribou right now. if
He's
anyone
tonight's
wants
Jeff.
that. Yes, exactly. I'll answer both, fine.
Okay,
Just don't call me Bob.
all you guys, review the standards for campgrounds and make sure you're all good with that. That'll accelerate things along if we don't have to back up and race and get a new drawing.
I put most of them in my thing. If you look under campground on page 2,
Yeah,
what I did is I basically walked through the conditions and, Dustin Fumes and said, Acres Wilderness will ensure compliance with that, where I added to the extent possible, this is the Joe provision, all exterior lights be directed downward. And I just go through each one of the conditions, and I thought that was kind of an easy way for us to ensure compliance. And if you go to storm drainage, 9 is state licensing, 10 is that crazy water carry.
Yeah, okay, on page 3 of 7, item 10, oh no, I'm sorry, it's 11 on page 3.
Yeah.
That's the 20,000 square feet, and he's pulled that right out of the ordinance.
Right.
So make sure you're good with that.
Without water carrying sewage.
I didn't know what it meant, so.
It means,
Type of water.
it means that 4-inch pipe in the ground, you know,
Okay.
smells bad.
I assume guys didn't just go out.
Just a question about that.
Yeah, just a sec, Gary's got a question?
Water carried sewage, we're offering bathhouses, so that we are offering them.
But it talks about the site.
Is that a good question for David?
Each site will have within the ordinances, not ordinances, but recommendations for bath sites around the tenting areas. You have to have so many bathrooms per site.
Well, I believe that number 11, Gary, I believe that number 11 refers for each RV, tent, or shelter site. So each site has to be 20,000.
I don't think, Gary, I don't think we're asking that your site be in the middle of the 20,000 square feet. We just went over this and said aggregate, so that if you add up your RVs in that area, you get 20,000 square feet for each one if you divide by 10,
And I think the idea of this was to make it a quality campground, not one of these that looks like the sardine factories they have down on some
None
of
of our
the lakes.
sites are that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're very large.
Well, I mean, you look at some of the older places where they've got RVs along Sebago Lake, you can about open your door.
Oh, I know, no,
It's awful.
what's the campground right over here? It's in, I think, part of your town.
Oh, Acres or Critters or whatever it is, Acres of.
Yeah, I went in there and they're on top of it. I mean,
I think
we have very large camps.
that's the intent of this, so just make sure you're good with that.
We're okay with it
I think we're trying to make this work.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be overly oppressive. We're trying to make it work.
Correct.
No, but, and again, I'd like to make the point that by following what David Strock did, by going down through each bullet point on each thing in the ordinance, we are protecting the applicant as much as anybody. Because again, if one of the neighbors objects and finds something to sue about, again, if you're all in good graces of the ordinance beforehand, you got no risk.
My understanding is John just told me, I'm like, hey, I have no idea. What water, carry sewage, I have no idea, but he says we can put 800
In
sites.
theory, I mean, if we have 400 and something acres and it's one for 20,000 square feet, we have more than 800 sites available to us in this
But
place.
So we already
that
comply.
that has an impact, then you're designating a part of the property as something you're not going to.
Like a reserved area.
It's a reserved area because you can't use it for other purposes, so it's a give and a take, and then once you get down to 13 is the end of the condition, and then I started.
a question about that, also,
Well, let David finish.
Oh, no,
he has related to the previous point for David Laurie, it sounds like this is gonna be a discussion, because if a site has access to a bathroom, right, like a bathhouse, like a campsite, right? Then does it have to be 5,000 or 20,000, because the water and sewage isn't actually on the site?
I believe
it's an issue, because the ordinance says 20,000.
Yeah, I believe it refers to the site itself, not whether it's a
One
bathroom.
clarification, if I might. So if we're looking at this from a net density calculation standpoint, here's our property, 450 acres, we're saying this is the campground. Are we able to then say, okay, based upon this area, subtracting out roads and buildings and such, that this site, the whole 452 acres, can support 900 sites at the most?
I think the intent of the ordinance was to de-densify the actual camping sites, so they're not, all crowded into each other.
think you'll see that on your sidewalk.
I think it has to be
Okay,
continuous with.
yeah,
Because
and,
chunks, obviously it can't be separated by roads and stuff, so we'd have to have a piece
Yeah.
to say, this area A can handle, however many
Yeah.
units and sites there are, and it's dedicated for those, and so that basically would be an open space.
yeah, the other thing,
Undisturbed, or
I
can't have
think
more
if
sites.
you're receptive to it, we'd have to see it before.
the other thing that David's getting at is what happens down the road. In Baldwin, case in point, in Baldwin in the rural zone, you need 2 acres to build a residential house. And same in a subdivision, you need 2 acres for each house. We've got a thing called it's a compact subdivision? Something like that. Clustered subdivision. You can build each house on 1 acre, provided that over there in the corner, you set aside 1 acre. And if there's 10 houses in the subdivision, you've set aside forever in perpetuity, 10 acres over there. And you don't have to do anything with it, you let poison ivy grow on it. But it can never be, developed. I mean, I think you can probably put a lawn tennis court on it, but you can't build a structure on it. And I think what this density calculation would do, would provide that, as long as we define the area that is being counted as the rest of the 20,000 square feet. So it's basically put into your own little land trust that it never gets mucked up.
So going back to Nicole's question, David Laurie, is there a clearly defined definition in law about what a water carried sewage facility means?
No, I was about to ask whether, gray water, just if you have showers, that's sewage. I was looking it up here to see what Google has to say about it, although that's always a dangerous thing.
That's my legal research.
That just hasn't come up in my tenure.
Yeah,
I think it's
There's a huge difference in what they have to say.
I think the guys that wrote this decades ago were thinking of that 4-inch pipe that begins under the porcelain facility in your house and goes away.
So there's something that they use sometimes gray water,
Yeah,
which is different, you wash your dishes or you
yeah,
take a shower.
yeah.
And frequently that's treated differently. I don't know what this particular language means. Obviously, the board will have to interpret it at some
Yeah.
point.
Okay, I think that's really helpful
Yeah.
for the community.
Okay,
So then just to complete my thought, when I get to 14, I start to put in things that we've talked about, but aren't in the ordinance. Emergency preparedness, that's a concern I have, that if you have a fire up at the top of the, upper pond, that you're able to evacuate. You as the provider of the camp have thought about how you're going to evacuate people, so it's not.
while at the same time getting fire suppression stuff up there on the same road. Holy cow.
So I just put some thoughts down on 14. 15 is exactly what Norm was saying, was, how are you going to get the vehicles up and make sure that they at all times can go up. 16 should be, Marston Pond Road, not Twain Road, but,
Right.
vehicle access. And we talked about the crossing of, it should be Marston Pond Road, because that's a public road. And so, and these are ideas. This is something to shoot down or to refine. I'm just throwing it out there. 17 was, past conditions. It's somewhere in the ordinance about the, exceeding the 6-month period. Having you guys define when you're gonna be open actually makes that simple. Dwelling, that was, if we're not gonna treat this as a subdivision because those cabins down there aren't dwellings under the subdivision ordinance, having some sort of restriction there saying they never will be dwellings going to the future. fire rings, I just saw you guys have fire rings on every campsite, you know, whether or not there's some fire suppression. Transfer of ownership, David talked a lot about that, even more, defined, having reservation systems may be a problem. Hours of entrance and exit, time for the business. And all of those dealt with the campground, just as the operation. And then the accessory uses are below, and each accessory use, I thought we had to consider what additional restrictions would be on the accessory uses. So for me, this is the way I think, so I felt like we were throwing darts at the wall, and this gave us at least some place to start.
Things are getting late. Do any board members have any questions for Mr. Laurie at this point? Mr. Laurie, do you have any thing you wish to straighten us out on?
No, I think we're heading in the right direction.
I had a couple questions.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
so right now we're in, well, we don't have an application, but they're gonna give us a new application. So there's no time period starts until we determine that the application is a complete reflection of what they're trying to do. Like that it's a complete application, that's when the time starts. Because I know our ordinance has some time once we determine it's complete. Is that really the first formal step?
So you're all staring at me and I was thinking about something else.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'd like to address that. I can't remember what the time is. Is it 30 days or 60 days after accepting an application?
It's just 35.
Yeah, something like that. After accepting what we discern is a completed application. If at that time the applicant wants the board to vote on it, I believe the applicant can say, okay, says right here, 35 days, whatever, I demand a vote. However, I would be cautious, and I would hope that nobody would exercise that until everybody on the board is convinced that we have the information to make a wise vote. Because if we feel that we don't have all the information, we'd probably be obliged to say, I don't think I can go with this, I gotta vote no. I don't wanna do that. I want us to move forward expeditiously, but, and again, it's the applicant's choice as to whether to exercise that option.
But your question is, when does the clock start ticking?
Well, when you make your determination of completeness, then 35 days after that, you have to schedule a public hearing. Okay? And 35 days after the public hearing, you're supposed to make a decision.
Well, there's a sticky point there that we can't have a site walk when there's very much snow on the ground, so I would think that would hold the sand in the hourglass until that can happen.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Can you do the site walk in the next 2 to 3 weeks before the snow comes?
Don't have an application.
You don't have one
I don't see anything in the ordinance that even talks about the sidewalk.
right.
It's in there somewhere that we can require a site walk.
Right.
And I think that comforts the general public as much as the rest of us.
Well, if you go up,
But could we schedule the site walk, like, let's say like the week after Thanksgiving, that November 29th, 30th, 31st?
the thing is, if you go out there as a group, you're having a clandestine meeting.
No, we do public notice,
I was about to say, unless you
Yeah.
go through all those.
Right.
Right now, we don't have an application. We'll have an application at our next meeting. At that point, we can talk about public hearings and sidewalks. Unless global warming really kicks in, I think we may be toast. Nonetheless, because of the snow restriction, nonetheless, I still don't think we ought to rest during, January, February, March. We'll crash ahead, we'll have a site walk later. on a project this big, again, if it was a lemonade stand, you know, you're building an addition out of the whistle stop by the gas pumps to sell lemonade, I wouldn't worry about a sidewalk. This is a serious, big enough project, and I think the public is gonna be much comforted if they know what's actually going on rather than worry and wonder.
My question is, why can't you schedule it right now?
I don't have an application.
That's not, well,
So,
think you do.
so I think once we get the application, like, at the next meeting, I can see scheduling the sidewalk.
We could probably do that. Again, the sidewalk may get the kibosh put on it because of the
When's
weather.
your next meeting?
Next meeting, we were not gonna be meeting on Thanksgiving, which is where our next one. The second Thursday in December is 13 December.
I know. That's why I'm, dismissal is not good. Wrong on it.
It's,
How?
Coming in 2.5 years ago.
yeah, well, really, I mean, I wish you guys had come in April. We'd be through this and we'd be laughing and drinking beer.
So David, if they submit an application to the CEO, can we schedule a public hearing outside of a regular meeting? And I don't mean to do the sidewalk, but to decide that we wanna have a sidewalk. Can we do that outside of a normal meeting?
I don't see why not, provided you give adequate notice to the public.
Right.
But how do we as a group get together and decide we wanna do a public?
Isn't that a clandestine meeting?
Isn't that a South clandestine meeting?
Could be.
Not just scheduled.
Again,
Well, I put it, I don't know, go ahead.
the application it was way too late anyway in the year. This is not the doing of the planning board. I realize it's a hardship. It's been created by the applicant.
I beg to differ, that's okay. You know, I'm gonna say one final thing, and, I'm not gonna say anything else. But the application was submitted on September 20th, all right, we're 2 months later, all right? And the application was submitted. At that time, if you thought that this wasn't a corporation, that should have been addressed to us at that time, not after the meeting was, and you're trying to establish what we are, whether we're a campground or whatever.
This is a month and a half, that's not too much.
You stated before that
But
the mistake, the error was your own, and, you know, it's a good man to man up to it, but I'm not
It
buying.
also wasn't a complete application, and that was the discussion we had then.
Beg your pardon?
It wasn't considered a complete application.
What was it, on September 20th?
Well, it's still, I mean, it's still not complete, like, let's be real, like, you just.
Well, if it's not complete, then why was it dismissed? I mean, why won't we just why won't we make it complete? Whatever we need to do to make it complete, what's incomplete on it, I guess is my question.
I heard today that there's gonna be some additional information about the 452 and what that 452 entails.
The designation of square footage.
Designation of square footage for the campground, or for the individual site.
Pretty much everything we talked about in the last hour.
Yeah.
So, after the dismissal. Right, correct.
We will,
Because we started work.
again, we will work expeditiously. Once we have things, we will be here on the 27th of December, won't we, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, we're gonna schedule a sidewalk, if there's not, how many inches have to be?
We have been burned a number of times by this applicant in the past, saying we're gonna have our ducks in a row, and it didn't happen. I want to do this right. We get a complete application, we will work expeditiously and move ahead. Gary, you started to say something.
Could
Okay.
I ask you for one thing I brought up last meeting and the meeting before, and I asked that you consider selling beer and wine in your store, because I think it'll cut down on the traffic.
Yes.
You know, I don't think everybody's gonna leave at 5:30 to go get their 6-pack of beer, if you sell it in your store, and, I don't see that in the application. I'd ask you to consider it.
And anything else that people seem to have to run out for at the last minute,
Yeah.
you know,
But that's something you'd have to have in the application, I think, if you were gonna sell out.
Can we,
that, because that will influence the amount of traffic that's perceived to be put out into the dinky little Senator Black Road. You're saying, Matt?
I was just wondering if maybe, Nickel could summarize the minutes so far, just.
Oh my God.
We talked about so many, so many different things in the last hour and
Actually, did
2 hours, and I think that somebody hopefully has been writing notes to all the things that we talked
Yeah,
about.
just been writing like mad.
Because, you just said this was a complete application, and everything on that list needs to be addressed, Bill, in the application. So, how could you consider it a complete application? And once you submit it, we may have to have more questions after that.
Well, I think David's 7-page sheet here is a good roadmap, so we can get an application and have a good chance of not having to keep throwing it in the washing machine, throwing it in the dryer, hanging it up, and see what it looks like again.
And that may be a good reason for the sidewalk. You may see something on the property right now that's not gonna change at all.
I'm all about having a sidewalk as soon as we possibly can, legally.
Well, I don't think we legally can until we have an actual application.
It's gonna be hard for us to give you a complete application when half of the stuff on the page is questions you don't have answers to. How are we gonna give you an application on a question?
The time hardship was not created by the planning board.
I'm not beating that in,
But no,
we're filing a new application, let's
Yeah.
not do any more beating the dead horse.
Right.
We're moving on from here forward, clean slate with everybody.
No,
So, another question I asked you, Gary, last meeting or the meeting before, was, how you felt about a lodging tax, or how, your company feels about a lodging tax.
We're not opposed to that, we haven't worked it all out yet, we haven't got an exact
But
number.
in concept, you think
We're not opposed to that.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Laurie, can a
lodging tax?
Mr. Laurie, I know Maine has a,
State tax there.
I know Maine has a rooms and meals tax, can a municipality levy a lodging tax, $1 or $2 a night?
In general, no.
Oh,
I'd have to look into it again, but the last time I looked at it, taxation is something, in the hands of the legislature, and they over and over again refuse to give local option taxes.
Right, the local option sales tax, right.
Yeah, we can't
Oh.
ask the campers to pay a
Well-
tax unless it's.
Everywhere I travel in the world,
Yeah, I know,
Well, there is,
go to Fort Lauderdale,
I'll say it's the worst, it's 10
Mr.
or
Laurie,
11%, but the
Mr. Laurie was
the
speaking.
state allows.
Excuse me, Mr. Sheriff, Mr. Laurie was speaking.
there is a state lodging tax, American lodging,
Was it 9.5%?
something like that.
I mean, yeah, whatever the state is, I said, we pay.
Oh, we're talking about town of Albany, but that probably ain't gonna happen.
You can charge for services, and have impact fees, okay?
Mhm.
If you have an impact fee ordinance, and there's a possibility that, the board can impose something, I suppose. I have to look into that.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out how, I see this project as not being taxable in proportion to the services used. And I would like to know if there's any way the town can, without hurting the project, make some money on it to pay for our services.
There is an impact fee statute. You can look into that if you particularly want to try to impose, impact fees, but you have to have very specific things that are tied to the project, or you're supposed to have.
Right.
A,
So it has to be dedicated to fixing the road that got beat up by all those dump trucks or whatever.
yes.
Oh, yeah. If it's a quarry.
What, how many people can unofficially do a site walk? Maybe I shouldn't even talk about it, but say instead of the whole board going at once.
Well, you have to go as a group if you're going to go and you're going to consider it.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the ordinance that I could see that requires a site walk at all. So I suppose, you know, and under the freedom of access law, you gotta give notice to the public if you're gonna do it. But within those parameters, there's nothing stopping you going out there as soon as you can advertise, and the advertisement doesn't necessarily have to be newspaper advertisement either. I just mean even for emergency notice to the public when you're gonna be doing something like that. But it's a freedom of access law requirement, and it's a requirement of essentially due process that you go as a group, you're gonna rely on what you see, you go as a group, along with any interested parties.
I think this needs to be well advertised so that all the public knows, because I am aware of some unhappiness around town, and I'm afraid of getting strung up from an oak tree if we don't make this real public and involve anybody that wants to go.
And I'm with you,
You don't wanna go to that oak tree either, huh?
but I know how well attended our sidewalks are. So I don't want, I guess I don't want the sidewalk to be the tail that wags the dog on this project. And I do think it's the applicant's fault that we're where we are today, but I also am willing to, I'll propose a concept and the board can shoot me down. But I would be willing to schedule a sidewalk today, for some time in the future, contingent on, a couple things to make sure that it's obviously publication in our normal course. Receipt of, the application, and posting that on our website, the town's website, so everybody has access to it.
Can you give us the whole application digitally?
Yes.
Okay.
And if we receive it, then that would trigger a predetermined date that we would have a sidewalk, and we would publish it, and it would be sometime before, either right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving. And you know, that at least gives the applicant a chance, because if we get into December, there's no chance. I'm willing to do that, because I think that nobody goes on these sidewalks for the most part. It's gonna be a handful.
There'll be some on that one.
And if we determine after the sidewalk and after we review the application that our sidewalk didn't do it justice, I think we can require a new sidewalk.
We'll have the application in
Right.
by a week from today.
But I think that I'm frankly not gonna glean too much from the sidewalk. I'll get some of it. I mean, I've walked the property years ago, but, I'd be willing to do that. I would advocate for that. So that would be scheduling a sidewalk today for some date in the future. Yeah, there's no calendar there.
I got one.
We tend to do them on a Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
So some Saturday morning, between now and the first week in December, say.
Only two Saturdays, 17th and 24th.
Yeah, 17th
And the first, I mean, you could do on the first.
We can't do the 17th because we can't get notice
Right.
quicker. So it has to be December 1st.
Saturday, December 1st?
I'd be willing to take a vote today to schedule a sidewalk on Saturday, December 31st, or December 1st. Based on the condition that the application be received, by the, 20th of October. I'm just picking the date.
I don't think I can make the 20th of October.
And that is posted on the website, and
And a couple printed copies here for public inspection for we got small folks in town that don't do much internet.
And I'd be willing to do that,
Okay, and what we would have to do in the announcement is state that if there is a certain amount of snow on the ground, it will be canceled.
correct.
And everyone meet here at the town office first. And, you know, if there's like that much snow, no problem. If it's like that much snow, we ain't gonna have it. Well, what's in the middle, we'll make a determination here, rather than trooping
I think it was
everybody.
2 inches, wasn't it?
So how do we let the town know that there's not gonna be a site walk?
They will
We didn't
meet,
receive
they
an
will
application.
meet here, and we'll tell them we're sorry, but there's too much snow.
Or
No,
no
it's
application
hard.
submitted.
And we can actually, determine how much snow's too
No.
much by who shows up.
I'm asking about what if an application's not submitted, because we're asking.
Well, it won't be public notice.
Oh,
It
no.
won't be a public notice.
Until, we have to have it to you by the, we'll have it here next Thursday, John
Then we
says.
blow the whistle on that.
Yeah, nothing happens if we don't,
Josiah,
when can you get it here?
Right,
When can you get it here?
So next Thursday.
he said next Thursday.
So this is the 15th, so by the, on or before the 15th.
you gotta get your,
You said
gotta get in
the
the-
Well, we make it the 16th. We just need time to put notice.
No, I
on,
agree,
that's all.
16th, that'll give you a Friday.
Yeah.
Josiah, can you, buy into that?
I don't have my calendar with me, so
When do I have to get notice into the Shoppers Guide by? To have it come out on the 19th? I guess it has to come out by the 26th,
Monday by noon.
No, it has to be, 7 days before the, sidewalk.
So I would have 2 weeks to get it in.
The right to know law doesn't have a specific time.
Our ordinance.
Our ordinance has got it,
Yeah.
yeah. We're archaic, you know that.
Well, we have a standard practice. We want to stick with the standard
Yeah.
practice.
Thank you.
So I'd be willing to buy into that, which may surprise some, but.
No, again, we're trying to move this, you know.
He was thinking it, he was
I was
thinking it.
thinking it.
I mean, we're trying to move it along reasonably and also staying within the bounds of propriety. Matt, you buy into that?
Yeah, that's fine. The big thing I wanted to say was, you know, we have this 7-page document that you guys have copies of.
Yep.
I think for me personally, on the new application, I know we've talked about how many sites there are. I think some time needs to be spent on, you know, on your maps, figuring out exactly, okay, do you have enough, or maybe you have, and with the 5,000, the 20,000. Okay, because when we go out to take a look, obviously we'll, you know, be able to see that better, but.
Jeff's got a lot of stuff to deal with.
Yeah, and make sure that, you know, the 452 acres, if that's what we're gonna decide, that's what you're gonna decide you're gonna do, is part of it, not just the hundreds and some odd acres that you guys have proposed so far. Things like that, I guess, are big, you know,
Yeah.
big
I mean,
issues on the application.
Read every page on that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a procedural question
Yeah.
too? I mean, I know you're gonna submit it in a week, but as the guy who has to post the ad and all these things, and I don't work here, so do they have to submit it by 5 o'clock on Friday, and to who, and how do we know that it's received, and how does that get to us?
Let's,
Because I've only ever received
No,
an
let's-
application at a meeting.
he's not here all the time. Let's submit it to Debbie, our town clerk, and have Debbie, get in touch with me, Norm, and Nickel simultaneously. That way, if one of us is numb, the other one can be woken up. But submit it to Debbie. And then,
Both in paper and electronic.
and electronically to, Selectman's Assistant, Danielle, and her email is on the, what's her email, Jeff?
That's a good question.
Okay,
It's on the website.
It's on the website.
Danielle?
Yeah, Danielle is the Selectman's
Gary knows.
Assistant. Electronically to Danielle, physically to Debbie, the town clerk, and have both of them tweet both Norm and Nickel. Okay?
Yep. Notify Norm.
And at that point, Nickel and I will work and we'll phrase up a announcement that also talks about if there's too much snow, it ain't gonna happen, and meet here at the school, and it will probably be 0900 is our usual time.
Norman, if you would, advise both of those girls that's gonna happen.
I'll tweet them to keep their ears open for it, yeah. Yeah. the reason is, they're here all the time. Whereas, Wes has got other things in his life to do.
And I will say that we greatly appreciate, this effort.
Well, we need
I decided to do it.
I need to hear a motion.
I move that we, schedule, a site walk for December 1st, at 9:00, contingent on, the condition. December 1st, yeah. The, conditions, being appropriate, which I believe is
Weather conditions.
weather conditions being appropriate. Two, that the application is submitted by the applicant prior to close of business Friday, November 16th.
When do the girls go home, 4:30? 4? 4 o'clock, it's quick time.
Want to have that here by 3.
Yeah, have it here by 3.
Sometimes they do a little early,
And,
especially on a Friday.
Well, I would.
standard notification, to the public of the sidewalk. So 3 conditions.
You got all that, Nickel?
Well, I'm modifying a little bit.
Oh, yeah. What was it, clean it up.
Hold on, we'll bring it in a second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
You guys don't want to hear the motion first?
We're trying, I think we got the motion.
Okay.
We got the moves. Okay, all those in favor of Mr. Strock's motion? Appears to be unanimous. Okay. Sidewalk, December 1st.
I'm sorry, who seconded it? Did you?
I guess I'm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sidewalk, December 1st, next meeting, December 13th, is about as late as we can get the second Thursday in month.
Is it, what, do we need to have anything here on the 13th specifically, or just up here?
Up here, have all your applicational ducks in a row.
Correct.
So I would love to have a physical copy of this application before the sidewalk.
Well, if we're submitting stuff to, here on by next Friday.
Bring them in a box.
We just bring how many copies would you like?
Well, we need 5 plus
Five
1 for
board.
Mr. 5 plus 1 for Mr. Laurie, 1 for the selectman is 7, let's make it 8. If the machine's running hot, make it 10.
Electronically, okay.
Yeah.
We'll
If you
select
get it
8
to
copies
me
each
and
unit.
Norman, we can get it to everybody electronically.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Wes,
Just a thought, we've been throwing dates around. This is a month we have 5 Thursdays, and of course, 26th is not Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Can we have, will we gain anything if we have a meeting on the Thursday, the 29th, because then there's still 2 more weeks to the second Thursday, in December. So you still have your,
Do you have any
space.
questions from my applicant before you sidewalk?
Right, we'd have to advertise that too, so for just a meeting. Is there any sense in that?
We meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday.
Yeah.
We're having enough extra meetings.
Yeah. We're already doing Christmas or Kwanzaa or whatever it is. It's a good thought though, Wes.
Just a thought.
Okay, so that's the plan, okay? Do I hear another motion?
Move adjourned.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, everybody.
Gary, ask a quick question. Why
December
was
1st, the day of our sidewalk.
Yeah,
Can we do anything to help you guys? Do you want us to do anything, or just be there and?
You know, little posts with flags in them to indicate things helps. You know,
have something like that too. And an easel, and everybody can stand in front of it, and we carry it up the road, and okay, everybody can kind of orient themselves on the map. They see where they are in the world, and, I don't know, can you make that even bigger?
We can provide several 11x17s of potentially each area, so people can
Yeah.
walk around. People don't like to walk, with large.
Well, if you could put something on a piece of poster board like
Yeah,
that,
carry
on
around.
these size,
Yeah.
that would, that would be visual aids.
I'm thinking that some of the places where you've got tent sites, not all of them, but, just something like, this is how close tent sites are, with a little wire flagging thing,
Yeah.
So you get like 5 or 10 of them or something, you know, in this area and that area.
You'll see
So
the
we
RV
can
sites.
So that we can understand what it needs.
Provide context so we can see.
Yeah.
We're
This
gonna,
is
we're
your
gonna be walking
opportunity
around.
to sell the project.
There you go.
Yeah, you do whatever, you spend thousands of dollars, you spend $2, it's up to you. You're selling the project to those people, the only people coming out are the people concerned, so.
Now, Gary, that side by side you have is a 4-seater?
Three-seater and two-seater.
Okay, and I'll speak about this. It would be your liability, but if somebody elderly shows up that has a hard time hoofing it, if you wanted to give them a ride, that would be a good thing.
Yep.
By the way, I should mention this earlier. Disclosure, today I was out ramming around, riding the back roads with my friend Jack Murphy, and we were riding down Marston's Pond Road, the woolly part of it, and we ran into Gary and, Mr. Efron, and we actually had a good civilized chat and shook hands, and Mr. Efron said that he, prefers not to fight, like to go ahead with it, and I said, well, as long as we can keep things between the boundaries of the blue book, I'd like to move ahead too, so, anyway.
And I'd like to add one thing too. Mr. Sharon, you haven't been to many of these meetings, but Gary has. I'd just like to tell you, he's represented your organization very well. We had a lot of, concern, for a long time, because of, your choice of representation. And, since Gary's been here, he's done a great job, and, you know, it doesn't mean it's a perfect project, but I think he's represented you well, and I think it's fair for you to hear that from the board. I think
We haven't always been happy with each other, but I think we understand each other. That's worth something.
Agreed.
So, you know,
Move the question?
okay. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Okay, very good. And, David Laurie, thank you very